We have our hearts now in the UI, so let's bind up to them or use them in our player panel binding. I've got my player panel 1 selected here, and let's go open up the player panel script. First thing we're going to need is a reference to those hearts because I want to either change the sprite or toggle them on and off based on what our current health is. We can maybe use the empty health image or just turn the sprite completely off. Let's go up to line 8, add a new line after it on 9, and we'll add a serialized field, which it's nicely auto-completing. And here we're going to add an image array. So we'll put image, IMAGE, and if I hit enter right now or tab or anything, that's going to auto-complete to the wrong one. What I want to do is go up and find this image that's unityengine.ui. I'm not even going to do that though, because I want to show you how to manually do it in case you can't find that. So I'll hit escape here and add in our 2 square braces. That tells it that it's an array, not a single image. And I'm going to call this underscore hearts. Now I'm going to pull this up to the other line just by going up to the end of the line and hitting delete and just kind of realign it. And then let's hit Alt-Enter. What's going on here is it's saying, hey, I don't know what image you want me to use. There are a bunch of different types of images, all defined in different libraries and namespaces. There's one here in the media types, the .NET MIME media types. There's one for the Visual Studio Editor. There's one for the Unity Engine UI, and there's one in the Unity Engine.UI elements namespace. The one that we actually want to use, because the UI that we're using isn't UI elements, is the Unity Engine UI. And as soon as I click on this, it's going to add a statement right up at the top that says using Unity Engine.UI. Let's hit it, and you can see that got added. If it doesn't a pop-up, you can't get the pop-up to appear, you can of course just type that text right in. But if you have multiple of them, like say, let's duplicate this and say that I also have the UI, what was it, UI elements? Now it's going to give me an error because it's going to say, hey, I don't know which image you want. Do you want the one from UI or from UI elements? If I just get rid of this UI elements because that's the new UI system that we're not using, it's a slightly different UI system. We're not using it right now. So we don't need that in here. We remove it and the error is gone. So let's go to our update method. Now that we have our hearts here, let's say we have all of our hearts assigned, all 6 of them or however many there are. What we want to do is in our update, just update the hearts that are visible or change the sprites. Again, we'll go through optimizing this in just a moment, but first let's make it work exactly like our score text does. So we'll add a new line here and I'm going to add an open brace because I want it to do more than one thing after the if statement. We'll delete that close brace, go down here, hit enter, and add in a closing brace. So now I've got braces around my set text. And after we set the text, what I want to do is loop through each one of these hearts. So we're going to iterate on them with a for loop. And we want to just toggle whether or not they're enabled based on how much health the player has. And it's a pretty easy thing to do, but it's kind of a unique, I guess it's a cool thing that you should definitely remember how to do. Let's just type out the code. Let's start with the for loop. So type for and then hit tab. It'll kind of auto-complete for me. If it doesn't auto-complete, you can, of course, just type out the entire thing. But we got the int I equals 0 with the parentheses, the semicolon here, the I less than length, which got not selected yet, but will be in a moment. And then it gave us some braces. So I'm going to hit tab a couple times, go over to the word length. And what we want to do is loop up to the number of hearts that we have. So we'll go from 0 to hearts, underscore hearts, dot length, which is however many hearts are in that array. If we put nothing in there, it'll be 0. Nothing will happen. If we put 1 in there, it'll run through this loop 1 time with I being 0. If we put 2 in there, it'll run through this loop 2 times with I being 0 the first time and I being 1 the second time. So let's write some code inside of this loop to do what we want it to do. So first thing we want to do is check to see, well, the first thing we really want to do is modify whether or not this thing's enabled. There's really only one thing we want to do. I'm saying the first thing, but there's really one thing we want to do. So what we'll do is first let's split this out just a little bit. Let's say heart, spelled that wrong. It's image, heart equals underscore hearts at index I. So this is going to get us the heart for the number that we're on. So 0 will get us the first one, 1 will get us the second one, and so on. And you'll see these indexes match when we're looking at them in the inspector. So we'll get the heart, and then we'll say heart.enabled is equal to I greater than underscore player dot health. Oh, health. There we go. And I actually said that wrong. It should be less than. And then we are done, except we have an error. So let's first evaluate what this code is doing, and then we'll fix the error. So on line 27, we set enable to be either true or false based on whether or not this I value is less than the health. So if it's heart number 0 and our health is at 1, then it will be set to true. If our health is at 0, then we're dead and it's set to false. If our health is at 3, heart 0 will be true, so the first heart 1 will be true enabled, and heart 2 will be true enabled. So I'll have 3 hearts enabled with 3 health. But heart 3 will be, I index would be 3, which is not less than our health, so that one would not be enabled. So that's the logic here, but we don't have access to this health. We can't actually read it. It says, hey, player does not contain a definition of health. Oh no, what do we do? How do we possibly get this? Well, all we need to do is kind of expose this variable to our player. Right now it's in our player data, and we want to make it read-only accessible to from our player. So we'll hit Alt-Enter and generate a property. Now, if that doesn't work for you, you can, of course, manually type it in, but I'm going to hit F12 and go to that property. It should have put it right below my coins, and if you don't have your things organized, your properties aren't all together and stuff, it's kind of going to be a crapshoot. Who knows where it's going to end up. If you keep things organized and clean, it'll show up in the exact same spot. So we've got our health here, and we don't want to have this setter part. We kind of want this getter like we have here, but we don't necessarily want the setter. So I could copy this getter part, paste it right in here, and then replace coins with health. Now, there's also a shorter way to write this, though, because if we don't want to do a setter at all and we just want a getter, we can actually remove the parentheses and the get and just do it like that. And this will give us a property that can read this health, but it cannot write or modify it. And that's because we don't want our UI modifying it. So I'm going to save with Control S, go to our player panel, save with Control S. I'll do a build with Control Shift B and just make sure that it succeeded, which you can see right down here, build succeeded. Then we'll go back into Unity. Let's take a look at our player panel. We should now see our hearts appear here. See, we did expose those as a serialized field, right? Yep, there we go. Any second now, I expect it to recompile unless I've got an error here. It's not picking it up yet, so I'm going to go to my scripts folder, right click, and just hit the re-import. Where's that at? Re-import. See if that recompiles. It should force a reload and then have this code re-update. Let's see if that works. There we go. Now I've got my list of hearts. Now I'm going to go into my player panel prefab. I'll just hit the open prefab button. And with the prefab open, I'm going to have the player panel selected. I'm going to choose the lock. Just go hit the lock so that my inspector doesn't change. And now if I go select a heart or anything else, see that the inspector stays the same. Now I'll select heart number 1, hold shift, select all the way down to my last heart, heart number 6, and drop it right on the word hearts. And I should get element 0 all the way through 5 with hearts 1 through 6 in that exact order. So remember, this is that I index of 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 that I was talking about. Let's go back. Hit save. That should save our prefab. And if I go look at the other player panel, it should also have hearts. But I don't know. Yeah, I'm not in lock mode. Make sure that your lock turned off when you got out of prefab mode. It should have turned off that lock though. Now, if we press play, I should be able to run over and watch my health just drop down. Let's see if that's the case. I run over here. Boing, look at that. Health is going down. And let's add in another player. So I run over here with player 2. And it still works. Everything works, and it's all hooked up and bound using the same binding that we had on our coins. Oops, I can't run over there and get a coin. All right, let's stop playing, go into Plastic SCM, and say that we set up a basic basic health UI. Set up basic health UI bound to the player, and we'll check that in.